You are listening to the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast, where we take an all-in, leave no doubt approach to all things adventure hunting. From the big woods to the high country. How about that? Let's learn together as we discuss with our expert guests on what it takes to be successful in the backcountry. I'm your host, Weston Homa. Let's get into it. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast. Today, I'm joined by Tim Sisock. Tim is another guy like me from Pennsylvania who loves going out to hunt out west and just a big-time adventure hunter. Consistently gets it done. So we talk all about his adventures, kind of how he does things, what's it's been like over the years hunting out west, a lot of solo trips. And we even get into, especially in the beginning of the conversation, just a lot of good mindfulness talk, how having the right mindset can lead to success, and how just trying to get better at all these things with hunting can be applied to all aspects of life. I feel like me and Tim definitely are on the same wavelength with things. And I just really enjoyed the chat. And I think there's a lot that the listener can take away from not just hunting, but also carry with them in their day-to-day life. Other things going on. Turkey season's coming up for all of us Easterners here. I'm probably going to go out and do some scouting this weekend. I think this year I'm going to be mostly just hunting public. Turkeys I don't really spend a whole lot of time on. It's just not hugely my wheelhouse, but they are fun. It's exciting. That being said, I usually will just like hunt some private, predominantly just all public land, do it yourself. For my whitetails, the Western hunting, turkeys are just kind of whatever for me. But this year, I think I'm going to go to like my deer hunting areas. I know there's turkeys down there, and maybe I'll even take the bow for a walk. So we'll see. So I'll be out scouting for turkeys. Obviously, keep an eye out for some good deer sign this weekend. And then turkey opener is the weekend after. So see if I can get it done with the bow. That'd be a fun challenge. I think that's what I'm going to do. Also, I actually just finished up the 75 hard program. I don't know if anybody out there is familiar with that, but it's basically a program that can really help sharpen your discipline. It's really tough, but I've done it the last 3 years, and it's really helped me just become more disciplined, more confident, just giving me the ability to see that it is possible just to get better at things. And I just think that's such a good nugget for life. So I don't think it's for everybody. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. At the time, though, I feel like it's exactly what I needed. I've coming back to it each year the last couple of years. So I actually just finished up this past weekend and then spent some time with the family. Easter was this weekend. I hope everybody had a great Easter Sunday. And then actually last weekend too. So here's kind of some news real quick. I'm actually going to go on a spring bear hunt here next month in Idaho. This has kind of been like all real fast. I got some guys I know out there, got the invite, making some things happen. So all of a sudden, I'm going on this little like 5-day stint for spring bear in Idaho. Can't wait. It's going to be all spot and stock in the mountains. And I started getting all my gear out. I did an overnight backpack weekend with my old man this past weekend. Just ran all the gear, making sure everything's good. Got to see what I might need to switch out. And I got a lot of good content coming from there because I want to share a lot of that gear that I use. Just showing some things that have worked for us. Talk about some gear that maybe is not so good, maybe not worth spending your money on. But we go through a big gear dump there, so a lot of content coming for that. Other than that, though, I guess that was a lot here this week. But let's jump in the episode with Tim. Let's have a great rest of the week. Let's keep working hard. Let's keep showing up every single day. Let's keep making those promises to ourselves. And let's run the rack, everybody. All right, here we go. Tim Sisock. Enjoy. All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Run the Rack podcast. Today, I got Tim Sisock. Tim's another guy from Pennsylvania that likes to go out and hunt out west. He does a lot of it solo, and naturally I felt like, okay, here's a guy that's kind of like-minded. So when I see things like that, guys from back east making the big trip to go out west, it makes me feel a little less crazy. No, but super stoked to have you on, man. Saw just some pictures on your page of a few awesome-looking trips. Heard you on Jeremy's podcast on Antler Up, and message a few times on Instagram. This is the first time we're really talking, so I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, Weston, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for sending out the invite. And I think as we go through the conversation, just knowing a little bit about you, like our values are definitely going to align in every way possible, I think, as we go through this conversation. So it's good to meet like-minded individuals.
For sure. Yeah, looking forward to it. So, first we'll just start out. Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What's maybe a little taste of like how you got started going out west and things like that. Like when did you get started and give a
Yeah,
little overview.
sure. Yeah, grew up northeastern Pennsylvania. After college, I came out with a architecture degree, educated an architect, started working for an engineering firm. Still with that firm after 14 years almost now. So I run project operations there. The best thing about working for this firm is they handle a lot of value on work life balance. So it allows me to keep a lifestyle that I like while also, you know, exceeding in my career. So once I got out of college, that was really where it took off. Uh, it seems like when I got started in hunting, I just like exploded from next level to next level to next level. Whether it was a different species, a different style of hunt, a different weapon, whatever it was, I just kept trying to push the bar. Um, very much just trying to be the best for myself, you know. So then, as soon as I graduated college, I had a friend in college who was like on board about taking up this idea. So my first trip was actually out with him, and then I was pretty much hooked just on the mountains in general. So my first hunt was the typical over-the-counter archery elk hunt. Um, 10 minutes into that hunt, at first light, I had a cow at like 40 yards and ended up like not shooting just due to the fact that I was 10 minutes into my hunt and was like, this is gonna be great all week.
Yeah, so easy.
I don't think I saw another elk until like day 4 after I blew an opportunity, trying to draw on a nice bull. But like after that hunt, I was pretty much like, I'm gonna do this every year. And then you know, other people's lives, they have different responsibilities or different points in their lives. So like trying to stir up people to want to go or to be, whether it was work, family, whatever, to get somebody to take a week to a week and a half off. I mean, even a week is short when you factor in traveling from the east. So trying to find somebody that had the same, I guess, dedication towards it or even just the availability was tough. And I was pretty much faced with either I'm going to do it by myself or I'm not going to do it. So that was really the choice that I had. So it started with little solo hunts here and there, just in Pennsylvania. Whether it was just camping in my truck for turkey season or deer season or whatever, to um, trips to New York, just to kind of keep that, understand the process, understand how your gear works, make sure you're always tweaking things as things go through. So eventually, it was just like, yeah, I'm gonna continue to do this out west solo. And at that point, there was really no limitations to what I felt I could do. So it was really like, what do I want to do? And I've really, over the years, I've really enjoyed chasing mule deer. Like I love elk too, but like if I had to pick between the two, I'd probably take an archery mule deer hunt.
Yeah, that's mule deer are just such a challenge, it seems like, and I've hunted them in the late season, but this will be the first time I'll be out there chasing them in the high country with a bow, and I'm just
Hmm.
beyond stoked.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
It's just something about the animal. I mean, it's more than that. Like I feel like hunting for me has. Uh, I realized that the only thing I've been doing longer than hunting is playing hockey because I started hockey at like 9 years old. And I started hunting at 12 when in Pennsylvania you could hunt. And I constantly go through the mindset of why do I do this? Why do I continue to do it? Especially when you're like in the middle of a mountain and it's raining and you're by yourself and you're taking vacation from work and you got all these other things piling up in your personal life. And it's like, why do I continue to do this? So I sit with it every now and again. And my mindset has become the forefront of everything in my life within the last year of trying to improve. Um, and so in doing so, I've kind of revisited why I do this, and I start to learn that hunting and the values that I have in life are completely aligned. Between the physical fitness, the constant self improvement, the mindset that you need to have to stay on a mountain, that desire to be the best, the uh, process of, you want success, but success is actually the experience, right? Through the whole process. That's the success. Like the enjoyment that I get out of sitting here and doing e-scouting through these current months um, is enjoyable to me and is leading me to success, whether or not I take an animal in the fall. So that whole idea behind like why do I hunt has really been like just thoroughly ingrained into me just as an individual and as I personally improve myself forward.
Yeah, man. I think it's interesting you say that. I'm just getting started here interviewing a few guys, and the first few guys I met, similar to you, they live out west, but they moved out there, and they just are talking about how they're finding consistent success and everything, and that's something we talked about. It's like it's their lifestyle a little bit. Like, I mean, a lot of it. It's kind of on their mind. It gives them a little bit of a purpose, a little bit, and it's really something that constantly looking to get better, something that keeps them in shape year round and gives them like a target. And I just think it's really valuable. And then especially to the point where like you look at your 9 to 5, like
Mhm.
I'm sure you're kind of like me. Like I look at the 9 to 5 and be like, okay, obviously I want to do well for myself and do these things, but what's that work life balance? Because my mind immediately goes to like how much time can I get to go out there and things like that. So like, I mean, it just kind of encapsulates like everything. Because if you want to do these things and you want to become a better hunter, you want to be a Western hunter and stuff, you got to put the time in. And I used to have a job where I was working for a big construction company, working like a ton. I got a couple weeks off and stuff, but something kind of had to give. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
needed like to make a change to where like I need the time to get better at things, and I think that's like important. And I've the last couple years, my PTO has gone pretty much all to this. I'm not saying that's what everybody has
Mhm.
to do, but that's
Right.
what like I value. And like I'm not going on the week long ski trip with like friends from college, like not going on to the beach for a week. Like I mean people can do what they want, but I feel like I kind of pick up what you're putting down. Like it's you know,
Yeah, and
it's important.
I think it goes it just as an on an individual basis, because like I know you're a big self improvement guy and you're a big book reader, and I'm doing like I've been down that same rabbit hole for the past 10, 11 months, and I really have found the similarities between even just how I approach my career. Like, I want to be the best in my position, right? I want to be the best at that firm. If there's a position that's open that I want, like, I'm gonna die trying, but I'm gonna be the best to go get that. And like that carries over into finally when you get that 2 week PTO time and you go into the hunt, you're going in with that same type of mindset. So I think that's why like hunting, like people always come up with thing like I'm sure you get the same kind of comments like when you're at work and they're like, "Oh, what are you doing for your vacation?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go sleep in the woods by myself and chase an animal around." Or you have the people on the side of that don't support hunting as it's just killing an animal, and it's so much more than that. Like I love the primal aspect, obviously health and fitness, like eating it 3 4 times a week, like that's a huge deal. So how could I do that? How could I benefit that? It's hunting and being able to discover what my values are, what my mindset is, and have a direct correlation into succeeding or at least pushing towards success, depending on how you define success on a hunt. But being able to pull that from just your normal day life and then apply it to hunting and have that be a direct correlation is probably the reason why I take these vacations and I want to do these trips, and I want to push myself as far as I could, whether it be on a hunt or chasing a new animal or whatever it is, because I enjoy the process of learning about the area, about the animal, about everything. you know.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny you're saying that because I'm actually like finding myself in the same mindset of like it's like I'm getting the time from work to go do these things, and then I'm trying to make sure like I'm becoming. So I'm reading this book right now called Lynchpin by Seth Godin. It's all about like becoming like the go-to guy at work. Because anymore, like if you want like the American dream, just being a regular 9 to 5er, like it's not going to get you very far. And like all the possibilities that can come from being like a linchpin. And it's like, okay, if I could just, because like I want the success so bad in these other areas of my life, it's like if I can be a linchpin at my job, it's really not a huge deal. And I see it coming to fruition. I'm taking a lot of September off. I'm not taking more than my allotted,
Right.
PTO, but like my boss is like excited for me. You know what I mean? So it's
Hmm.
crazy how like you find this thing like hunting and you get obsessed with it, you're continually improving, and then that kind of translate to other aspects of your life. Because it's like I want to get better at this thing than to do this thing. And it was funny because my my boss's boss hunts, and he said his son found my YouTube channel. And I was like, oh, okay. They watched my Idaho hunt, and he's gone and hunted the West before. And he was like, oh, this is so awesome, man. Like, you got to keep
Yeah.
doing this. And I was like, just keep improving the PTO, and you got it, brother. Like, don't even worry about it. But yeah, man, it's all cool how it can all be connected, and yeah, just loving the whole process of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's funny how it goes back and forth. Like you said, like hunting has improved other aspects of your life, and other aspects of my life have improved my game in hunting. Like being a master of delayed gratification. Like if you're into physical fitness, like that's been my biggest thing over the last years. Um, I'm in better shape now than I have been my entire life, and that delayed gratification, like going into it, I was like, I can do 100 days at the gym, and if I do the 100 days at the gym, if I don't see any improvement, then so be it. But you pull in diet and you pull in everything else. Like if you go 100 days to the gym, you're going to see improvement. Like there will be some sort of gratification, but going in with the mindset that that you're doing it knowing that something at the end of this thing is you're going to benefit from it, is really the ultimate goal, and how you push yourself through that. And that's been the same thing through hunting. Like when you're ready to come off that mountain, soaking wet, haven't seen something in a day and a half, whatever it is, like if you don't have that mindset, or that just that whole clarity of mindfulness like within you to get through those moments, you're gonna come off the mountain.
yeah. And I think the word too is like, people want to talk about enduring and like grit, but like it's really patience, dude. Like how can you manage? Oh, this is so great. I was just listening to Cliff Gray. He's a big content maker for, who's been a guide forever, has a podcast, all that stuff. His like big thing is like the reason why people quit on these Western hunts is they don't know how to manage stress well. And like that's the skill, and you can pick that skill up in other aspects. That's why like everybody's got their own thing. For me, like it's running, do these big long runs, like it's just becoming more patient and dealing with the stress. I've found that like it's kind of helped me on these hunts, and that's I think, and then hearing that guy like him say that,
Mhm.
this definitely makes sense. Like who can deal with stress the best and who can be the most patient, and that's really what it is.
Right. And I think it goes as far as even like emotional intelligence, which has been something that I've been working on personally, is how to be emotionally intelligent in those stressful situations. And that benefits me as a leader at the firm. That benefits me as a person with relationships. That benefits me in the woods when I get stuck in the situation, that you're explaining. So yeah, all of this just it hunting has really evolved me personally, as a person, and has improved every other aspect of my life, and vice versa. All the other aspects of my life have it then transpired and improved my skill sets that I could apply to hunting. And none of it has to deal with, we haven't talked about finding game,
I know
or
we're 15
like,
minutes in, and it's like,
like
yeah, the secret is just like your mindset. And that's actually a big thing of the, content I want to put out there because I think it's true. It's not, the $500 pair of Kuya pants. Like it's
right.
not. Sorry, but I'll tell you from experience, it's not. Like, but I love the mindfulness, dude. I think you think how I think, and it's all real. It's all real stuff for sure. Um, but I would like to get into a couple of these Idaho trips for sure. So
Yeah.
kind of touched on it already, and I kind of get to that, like, it's really tough to find somebody to get on the same page with that wants the adventure that you want. You line up the work vacation, and it's tough. So you started going out, you said, screw it, like, I'm going solo. So can you remember that first trip? Was it that bull you were talking about in Idaho? Was that the first solo one, or when did it all start?
That was my first, I want to say, yeah, that was my first solo. Like I've done hunts with other people where usually like you're going one way, I'm going the other, or you're alone on the mountain, you're alone hunting, that sort of thing. But the elk that I took back, I think it was in 19. That was straight up first solo hunt. I just have to do this. Much like you've done the same thing over this past year, driving from here to there. Like mine was a 41-hour trip from home, from my driveway until I got to the trailhead, and it was
Yeah, because you're on the other side of
two and a
PA.
half
You're even
days.
further.
Yeah, I'm on the eastern side. Yeah, so
41.
it was a
Yeah.
lot. I stopped in Wisconsin and then Montana, and then eventually got into Idaho on the way out, and then coming back stopped in Montana, Minnesota, and then ended up crashing on like the west side of PA on the side of the road for a couple hours until I was able to have enough energy to drive the rest of the way. So yeah, and even that, I mean, that's a whole nother challenge to it as opposed to living in the West. Because again, I watch my finances too. I try and do these trips as cheap and as budget friendly as I possibly could, so I can keep doing them. So by analyzing, like, is it cheaper to rent a vehicle? Is it cheaper to use my own? Is it cheaper to fly? Is it cheaper to fly one way and drive the other? Like I've done it all over the years, depending on what the economy's doing and the prices are doing. But it adds a whole nother challenge to it. But again, it goes back to life. Like you need to budget in life. You want to be successful, you need to budget yourself. So you start to apply those things into hunting.
You break it down, you rationalize it, and then you just find a way. Yep. So went out there to Idaho, and maybe let's dive into that solo bull. I'm really curious how you brought that together, because I have heard, and I don't even know the hunt tactic you use. I'd love to hear the story, but I killed my cow elk last year, early season. Everything really hurt it up. Bulls were bugling, but elk were just elking around. Like, it's not like bulls are fighting and think people were rutting. It was just kind of big herds, spot and stalk, high country, which was really awesome. But the elk rut, and I've gun hunted elk for a couple years, but now think I'm going to stick mostly to the bow now out west, and I'm going to be hunting the elk rut this fall. But I've heard solo calling elk can be a challenge. So is that what that looked like for you? Were you doing much calling, or how did it play
So
out?
so this was a burn area that I hunted the 2 years before. So I hunted 17 and 18, and I was successful both of those year on mule deer. And this way, with me going solo, this was before Idaho changed a lot of their draw systems that they have now. It made getting a tag easier, actually later, like in the summer. Like you didn't have to decide the December before. So that we can refer to that as the good old days. Um, so I knew the area well. It was a big, it, it was a roadless area that you had to hike about 3 to 4 miles um, just to get to a hunting area, essentially, and nobody did it. And I discovered this the first year I was out there, because again, like setting that bar of like, if I push myself past this point, I could probably get rid of 90% of the hunting pressure. So you push yourself, and it's basically one big drainage. So it's essentially a mix of a southern slope and a western slope, and you can essentially hunt the back slope, which would be the northern side. Um, But the big drainage is really on the southern slope, and then within that, there's all these, which I would call micro drainages. They just go into little creeks. Um, but the nice part is you could serve it from up above, and with it being a burn area of, I think at this time it was probably about 6 years old, 6, 7 years old. So it was like right in the prime. Like stuff was just starting to come back, but it was still open enough that you can glass through it. So all I did was my tactics were really to work point to point across this ridge and really glass these micro drainages at certain parts of the day. And sometimes you can catch a lot of the mule deer and the elk. You can catch them feeding along the creeks just due to the fact that the creeks was the only real greenery that whole area had. So you kind of fall into the mouth of a micro drainage, and I may spend 2, 3, 4 hours there, whatever it is, glassing, and then move to the next, and then move to the next, depending on what made the most sense with the time of day that I think I can respectively get there. And I was probably doing about 6 to 7 miles a day, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're climbing over deadfall and doing all that, like,
Yeah.
it's a lot. Yeah. So the 2 years I hunted out there prior, I did not see any elk. Ton of elk sign, just never ran into them. But I was also successful, like those prior years, I was successful on day 2 and day 4. So I didn't spend, despite being there for 3 years, I only spent a handful, like 6 days in there.
Not a bad problem.
Yeah, right. But so my intention initially was, either find a real good buck to try and pattern and chase him down. Now this was a mid-September rifle hunt too for elk or mule deer. So it's a very unique hunt to the rest of the country and the rest of the western states, that you can be in the elk rut with a rifle.
I didn't even know. I didn't even know
Yeah.
that. Did you have both tags?
I had, yeah. At the time, you were able to get
Oh,
both of them. Yeah. So, I mean, it was,
dang.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was, like I said, that was the good old days.
Yeah.
But it was also, eh, they had this rifle season. It was a pretty extensive season because elk numbers weren't great. The areas were essentially 100% forested. So, hunting these burn areas were the most productive way to go about it. The rifle didn't really help you in terms of shot distance. Like maybe if you got into like one of these clear burn areas, like you may stretch out to 100 yards, but you can glass further, but you probably weren't going to put a shot out there further than that. So the benefit of having the rifle was, just the fact that you had more knockdown power and, a little more variability in everything else. But it wasn't that I was going to be sitting on the side slope and shooting 700 yards. So
Yeah,
you
I
had
gotcha.
pretty much you had to hunt it as if it was an archery hunt,
Right.
With,
Okay.
now with initially having, taken some good bucks out of there, I was looking for a 160 to 170 class mule deer or above, because that's what I knew what was in the area from taking them before. So I had my bar set pretty high on that, but I also had my bar set pretty low on an elk. Like any elk was going down if it had antlers. I don't think there was a restriction on the antlers at that time, but it did have to be a bull. So, um, so it ended up being that I got into a ton. By the end of day 1, I hiked across this. I went through the process that I was just explaining, and I got out to an area that I camped at before, and I got into a ton of elk sign in the evening. And I just said, screw it. I'm not even worrying about the mule deer. Like, this sign was just so fresh that I just needed to figure out what made the most sense of where to go in the morning. And I went up and pitched my tent on top of on top of the backside of the mountain. And like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, a bull just starts screaming as I'm sleeping. Actually woke me up. And your first instinct is it's light out, because like you get woken up, you think you slept in. And I would say this bull was less than 200 yards from my tent. So at that point, I was just like, please don't smell me at all,
Right.
like this whole entire night and stay in this area. Because basically he was just over the ridge, like down in the down in the bottom of the basin. I wouldn't say in the bottom of the basin, but he was over top of where I was. He was probably a couple 100 feet lower than I was, because these areas are super steep too, like super steep. Oh, 200 yards, but yeah, he was probably a couple 100 feet below me. So I woke up the next
Your
morning
thermals are
nice and early.
dropping.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'd be like,
And I was
don't.
I was on the
I'd
side
be
of the
like, don't
mountain I
bark,
needed to be
don't
on.
bark, don't bark. Yeah.
Yeah, so I honestly obviously didn't sleep much past that. So eventually I just got all my stuff together. And I figured I was just gonna hunt the morning, hunt that bull that I knew was in the area, and then come back and get camp later if I was gonna spike it again and move. So I just left camp there. I dropped over the edge. I waited for the sun to come up, and got myself on a nice vantage point, and had a couple cows that came up feeding through the creek that was down below in one of these little micro drainages. And I didn't call yet at this time because I was just letting the morning play out a little bit, and then bam, this bull screams like behind me, probably 100 yards, 150 yards. And I'm sitting there. I got the cows to my left. I got the bull to the right. I'm sitting right in between, and I'm like, this is how you like dream it up, right?
They're
So
gonna do the work for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the cows weren't talking at all.
What day in September was this? I don't mean to cut
This
you
would
off.
have been September 16th ish.
Okay.
So, not like they're heavily screaming, but they're getting antsy.
Yeah.
But the cows weren't doing anything; they were just feeding. So, with this bull being over there and the cows being over there, I just grabbed the bugle too, and I didn't even let out a bugle. I just chuckled into the tube. Did it once, waited like 30 seconds, did it again, and then you've probably been at these elevations in these areas where the ground is just rock solid hard, and you can hear everything from a super long ways away. And if you haven't done it, you probably don't know how to relate to that experience, but everything is just dead quiet. So you can literally hear hooves on the ground.
Feels like it's 40, 50 yards, but you're
Yeah.
like across canyon and you
Yeah.
see like whatever that is moving. You're like, oh shit.
Especially because you have like a 700-800 pound
so
animal.
loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So within, I'd say no more than a minute, I could just hear the footsteps coming from that bull's direction. And, he almost was coming at me, like almost to the point where he was going to be like close. I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for him to kind of pop around this corner, and he must have caught me before he popped around the corner, because he kind of just did one of these things, just turned back, and I just saw the rack, and I'm like, oh man. And he goes to loop around me to go down into the drainage with the cows. And to this day, I don't think I'll ever make a more impressive shot, but that bull was trotting pretty hard, and at about, I'd say, between 50, 60 yards, I pulled up the scope and shot him right in the neck. And it was at a point where he was about to go over the side. Like this is a super steep side hill. So he was at a point where he was about to disappear. Like, this is my last chance. And that's all I had was the neck. Like, I just had the scope in the right position when I was following him, and it was clear. And as soon as I shot, the woods just went silent, like just dead silent. I can hear the cows like kicking rocks and everything, like going off the other way. But from his perspective, I didn't hear a damn thing. And the only thing I could think of is like, I just killed this bull. Like, this is insane. But I couldn't see anything because he like was, with the momentum that he had, he was already over the edge. And I sat there and gained my composure. We talk about like emotional intelligence at this point. That was out the door.
Yeah. You throw that away when you've already, when the bull's on the ground, you're good. Let it all out.
So I ended up approaching it slowly because with that type of shot, I felt comfortable from my marksmanship, but also like, you don't know where you hit him, right? So it didn't matter. Like, as soon as I got eyes on him, like it was done. It was a done deal already. So like, it was only, I only waited maybe 45 seconds to him, because again, you don't know where you hit him, so you don't want to wait too long. But I'm not one of these guys that'll run up either and try and, like, I'd rather approach in a more of a stealthy pattern. That's just me. But so now I'm 6 to 7 miles. I think it was just over 6 miles, 6.25 miles from my truck with an 800-pound animal by myself. So this is where my biggest mistake was made, was just the fact that I didn't have a plan to get this thing out of some of the steepest country that Idaho has. So that was my biggest learning experience. If I can go back, I would have came in there with, because again, I didn't, being solo, I've taken deer. This was my first elk. I really didn't know the whole game that goes on with packers and guides and everything out there, because I've never done guided hunts. I've never had people pack meat for me or anything like that. So like I would have went in knowing that I had an elk tag in my pocket. I would have went in with contact information that I could have communicated with via satellite and had somebody just come in. It would have saved me a lot of trouble. So mind you, this whole hunt was morning of day 2. And I'd planned 7 days of hunting, 6 days of travel, so it was just about 2 weeks. So now I'm laying there with the bull. It's Sunday morning, because the first day was Saturday, and he hunting the southern slope. Because knowing that area, what they would do is they would obviously feed and bed on that southern slope overnight, and then as that sun starts to come up, they'd wrap around the bowl of the ridge, and they would go back into the thicker north side. So he died on the southern side. So now I'm fighting mid-September weather with the sun and the meat and everything else. So I ended up breaking down the bull almost immediately. Took a few photos, whatever you could do, and then it was like game on. Like now the work starts. So I ended up quartering everything, deboned everything, laid it out, tried to get it as cool as I could, put in the game bags, and then actually hiked it about a half mile to 3/4 of a mile down the drainage, kind of where the cows were, just because that's where the creek was. And that was the closest creek to me. So I knew it made the pack out longer, but it would keep the meat cooler longer. So I ended up doing that and just shuffled all the meat down there except for the last quarter, I guess, quarter game bag. Because I think I had 6 game bags, 4 or 6 game bags of meat, of deboned meat to get out of there now. Probably all averaging, 70 to 90 pounds.
Yeah.
So I hiked out the first set, left the rack and the hide and everything there, and it was a little over 2 hours to get back into town. So I didn't get back till, I want to say I didn't get back to my truck until close to midnight. Now, I shot this bull at like 7 a.m., So breaking it down solo, you're running on adrenaline. I forgot to eat. Like, all those things just happen, and then it just hits you. So I did end up getting food in me and hiking back to the truck and whatever, but I figured, what, I gotta go to town. I gotta get, for me to do this 4 times would be extremely difficult. And not that I wasn't okay with doing that. I was more worried about the meat spoilage, because it is mid-September. I can't take 3 days to get this out of there, or else I'm going to lose meat. So I ended up going back into town, grabbing a place. Didn't sleep, just needed a place to like get off my feet, and started calling around even at that night. Like I didn't get back to like 2 a.m. and I'm just calling these guiding places. And I actually had one respond, like pick up the phone. But I did learn through this whole process that like they have their own areas that they're only allowed to go into. Like they don't cross into other people's areas, and whether it's just packing meat or anything. So like, and my ultimate decision was that if I couldn't find anyone, I was going back in. I was doing what I had to do, and I was just gonna kick my own ass until I got everything out. So I ended up getting a hold of somebody at like 2 a.m. They said they'll give me a call at 8. I was like, I can't wait till 8. So I literally got up early, went to like the fringe of where I could, where I still had service, and then called, and they were like, well, send us their waypoints, and we can get in there. So I hiked myself back in, started shoveling meat up to where I camped the night before, and or 2 nights before, because I knew that they could probably access it with a mule. And they ended up coming in as I got done shuttling the meat. We pretty much packed everything up, but the mule didn't want to take for some reason he didn't want to take the hide and the rack. Like, he was just stubborn. They had 2 meals there, so like the meat on the one meal, and then they were going to put the rack on the other. And I was like, this is great. You guys go up ahead. I'll just carry this thing out, So it was cool because I got to, experience it from that end, and I just had some assistance getting the meat out. But that's one mistake that I don't think I'll ever make going again. That if I decide to do solo elk, I'm going to go in with a couple contacts that I've already talked to that I could figure out who would come in and do this for me.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I will say that was a hell of a story. Great work. That's awesome. Badass. And yeah, man, I've learned that lesson too when I was in Colorado. I ended up, it was a long story, like I posted about it, but I ended up there on a whim with an elk tag, and I got this cow down. But right before that day I arrowed her, I was playing that same game. I was like, oh, I'm by myself. If I get, like, there's a couple nice bulls like in this one herd. I was about 4 miles in, up at like 12,000, and I'm like, it's probably not a bad idea to at least try to call around. And I just had enough cell service in this new spot where I was making calls, and that's when I learned that lesson. On the mountain calling. Actually, it was funny. I was talking to I was calling around outfitters just from Google, and then they were saying, we don't go there. And then somebody else was like, oh, we don't go there. So-and-so goes there. And it's like, you can't find so-and-so's number. So then I think somebody said too, like, call the Forest Service and they'll tell you who goes there. So I called the Forest Service, and I remember like talking to this lady in this rain, this like light rain that was coming down, and it quit. And then this bull just starts going off like down below me. And I start whispering to the lady on the phone, like, there's a bull like right below me, like during all that. And she was like, I'll call you back. Like, and it was funny. But anyway, and then I had actually, long story short, a guy lined up. I talked to him. I arrowed that. I got that cow. She was decent size. I was like, I'll call this guy just to be sure. He's like, all right, we'll be there. I quarter mined up, deboned. I took one load to camp, and then the next morning he called me, said, oh, we're busy, we can't make it. Yeah. So I then packed her all out and everything, but I will say I had the perfect spot. North slope. I came down in high, like above tree line, but arrowed her. The herd was like right on the fringe. So it was all thick down in the creek bottom in this steep north drainage. And then, yeah, these pines just over this creek, dude, it was probably like maybe like, 60s during the day in this little spot, probably only in the 40s, shaded, cold creek. And then at night, my water would freeze. It was like the 30s. So I was like, I'll be pretty good. But it's but if I would have found myself, on a south slope, even further in like you, a big, like a bigger bull, more like everything. Yeah. It's smart to be prepared like that, because I'm sure things can turn around and you look around, you're like, yikes.
Yeah. And I don't think it hurts just to call around and be like, hey, do you pack out of this area? This is where I'm intending to hunt, just in case. Like this area had like a 2% bull success rate in that season, like, what are the odds kind of thing going into it? Those are the odds, but prepared to have a plan, man. That's the biggest thing, because again, I mean, it can go as far as, if you let that meat spoil, you could be fined out there. I mean, they take that very serious. You have to take all the meat, has to be out, has to be cared for. That's your right as a hunter too, to be fair to that animal. You need to go through everything that you possibly could. Like I was fully intending to go up there and knowing that I was doing 20 to 30 miles that day with 100 pounds on my back, no matter what, even if it killed me. There's a Japanese artist, Minamoto Musashi, says, to win any battle, you must fight as if you are already dead. And I approach my life with certain things, like things that I'm going to commit to. Like I'm in this, and I'll die in this, and I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to let it beat me. And that was the mindset going in, was like, you got nothing else coming out of this. This is the only job in front of you right now, is to get this out of there. So I was prepared to do it, but I was also grateful that I had some help on the back end at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, that really is a good mindset to think about, especially when you're in it and be like, okay, this challenge, this hypothetical mountain in front of me, that's it. Like, it's either this or this is going to kill me. And fair enough. And if it does kill me, I won't care because I'll be dead. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's like you just
Exactly.
stop. Then you're just like, okay. I was listening to a podcast. I like this saying too. They were talking about Mike Tyson's trainer. I forget his name, but like growing up, he was training Mike Tyson, and he would always tell him, like, Mike, like, you don't exist. It's like you and the task. So it's not like that's all that matters. It's not how you feel. It's not how like tired you are. It's not any of that. It's just like you and the thing. That's all that matters. And then when you're done, that's when you can worry about everything else. So whatever it takes to keep left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot,
Right.
keep going. Yeah.
And it's funny, like I'm sure you could probably relate to this as an individual, but people that like to push themselves to these, I'll use another term here, BHAG. Have you ever heard the term BHAG?
No.
All right, so it's from a book by Jim Collins called Built to Last. It's a business book.
I feel like
But
I've heard of the book, but okay, go ahead.
but a BHAG is a big, hairy, audacious goal. That's all it
Okay.
is. So, in the book, the company set these big, hairy, audacious goals with no intention to ever achieve them, but they would achieve them. So my setting that BHAG, I don't simmer in that success for very long. Like when I shot that bull, like reality sets in almost immediately as to what's the next task at hand. Like, yes, I've succeeded. Whatever my measure of success was, I mean, the bull was fantastic. Very grateful. And I probably enjoyed it more when it was on the back of my truck and I was heading back towards Pennsylvania. That whole process is when it kind of really hit me in terms of success. But like in that moment, there was no jumping up and down or yelling across the mountain or anything like that. It was like,
Job's
got
not finished.
done. Yeah. Job's not finished. Exactly. So I don't, and me personally, like I like you talk about this delayed gratification when you get to whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. Like I don't sit in that success very long. It's just like it's like moving the goal. It's like going to take a shot at the goal and then the goal moves. It's the same thing. I don't sit in it very long, and I don't know if that's good or not good, but I feel like there are times where you need to sit back and be like, okay, what you've done is good enough. You gave it your best, whatever it is. But like, there's other times where it's like just on to the next thing.
Yeah, and I can definitely relate to that. I've always questioned, like, is this healthy? Because I'll accomplish a big goal, big hunt. For me, like, I like these big races, like I do that, and it's almost like, almost even right before I go to do it, I start getting excited about the next one. Maybe it's just because like I'm addicted to like the dopamine of like the prepare for it. So it's almost like before I'm even totally done on like the one, I start like planning the next hunt, which is like kind of weird to think about. But I try not to. I think there is an extreme to it. Like I think it's okay to like tell yourself good job. um, but I don't know. I think from a lot of the personal development stuff I look into, and I just like learning about successful people in any craft, like, and just take it and apply it to my stuff. I think that's how a lot of people think. Like they're like, they put in all the work. It's almost like that goal was expected. So maybe they, say good job, and then it's really the chase, the pursuit of the next one. And then that's actually what they're addicted to. And what can I do better
Right.
next time? And then
Yeah,
just continuously improve.
you're right. It's that whole process. Like shooting that bull was just a milestone within that process. But I was enjoying my life, or I was enjoying the joy out of this process from when I was planning that hunt until I was on my truck going back home. Like that entire point has different bars that are set and what defines success throughout that whole process. And I think that's where like getting the bull was just yes, that is absolutely like the end goal or the best milestone. But again, it was just it's in part of that process of success. And if you don't get that, I think it's just as important to have the mindset like that because success isn't guaranteed. You can do everything right. You could start planning tomorrow and try and execute in September, and something's going to happen. That bull couldn't have came in. The wind could have switched. I could have missed. Like anything could have happened that would have not ticked the box on getting that bull. But that trip in itself would have been successful for all the other things that are along that timeline.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's what makes hunting so addicting. It's so challenging. And I really think, I mean, I'm always looking for ways to get better, always. But it's almost like you can almost do everything perfect and it's still not guaranteed because you're dealing with a wild animal. And it's just one of those things, though, that you just got to tell yourself. Here's another good one-liner I like to think about is like you can do you do all the prep, you can do the training, the e-scouting. You drive all the way out there, you get the tag, you hunt your butt off, and it still might not work. Still might not work out. But the only guarantee that it might not work out is if you don't go, if you don't even try. So it's like you gotta just be all in. So it's like that's how I rationalize it. Yeah.
There's time investments, there's responsibility sacrifices, there's financial investments in all these things. So if you don't enjoy that whole process and it doesn't work out, you're just going to be miserable. You're just going to feel like, and that I feel like that's partially maybe why people don't continue to do it either, or they're unsuccessful in the first trip, or they're just looking. That milestone of taking whatever animal they're chasing is the only thing that matters. And if that doesn't come to fruition, then it doesn't lead to a good mindset going forward.
Totally, man. Yeah, we're just I hear you. Like we are just on the same wavelength with this for sure. Because I think there's so much growth in it, and this whole process gives you so much more spiritually. And trust me, dude. And I guarantee you're the same way. I want the grip and grin just like everybody else. I want the big bull like just like that. But I know there's all these other facets that you got to dial in, and all these failures that are going to happen that you're going to learn from. And I think like back to what you said, the people that are just in it, just purely in it for that, again, preface, try to punch every single tag. I die trying to punch every single tag, but people that are just focused on the antlers and they're not tuning their bow and they're not getting ready for the hunt, they're not looking at maps, they're just going out there because so-and-so said like go here or something. It's like almost like you're giving them that thing the power, because when you go out there and you don't punch a tag, then it's like, oh well, so-and-so said they'd be here and they weren't here. This sucks. I'm not doing this again. And it's like you didn't love the process.
Right.
Like you didn't grow as a person in the whole thing. Yeah.
It's funny you say spiritually, because I'm a man of God as well, and you want to challenge yourself as a human being. I'm a big introspective person at the end of the day. Like I like rehashing out conversations I had, ways that I may have treated individuals throughout my day or whatever, and like try and improve upon that in whatever way I can. But you want to put yourself in a week-long introspective about who you are as a human being. Go sit in the mountains for a week by yourself, and the only person you can talk to is God. Like that is it's mind-blowing. It changes you as an individual. 100% has changed. Like hunting out west has changed me as an individual to be a better person. 100%.
And I feel like maybe when I started kind of doing this years ago or whatever, first started hearing the podcast, you kind of hear some guys say that and you think like, what? Like, okay. But no, I get it now 100%. And to what you said about being on the mountain solo, dude, it's so funny. Like I've done a few solo stints, and you're definitely right. When you got no cell service, when it's just always quiet and it's just you. Dude, I remember, I don't know, I'm always trying to look for ways to get better in life, and there's things I wish I could have done different and like all these things or whatever. And I'm still young in the grand scheme. I'm sure I'm going to screw a bunch of other things up in my life. But like by day 3, it's like, yep, like you almost, those things that are like haunting you or whatever, like, I don't know. You have so much time alone to think. Things just start coming in. You're like, yeah, I probably need to be better at that when I go home. Like, all these
there's
things.
no distractions. There's zero distractions. And this is time away from the hunt. When I'm hunting, I'm in the hunt. Like I'm engaged. But and this is
Right.
probably
That's what I mean.
like yeah, understandable. But like when there's downtime on all these hunts too, like as soon as it gets dark, you're not doing anything, unless you're already successful or you're moving spots or whatever. But even just that hiking where you're not actually actively hunting, like those are the moments, yeah, that your mind just rehashes every decision you've made. Whatever is in your short-term memory or long-term memory bank that has unresolved things, they come up. And because there's no other distractions, there's no work, there's no I don't if you have family that could be possibly be, and not that they're distractions, but it's the distraction from your personal mindset of the way that you process information experiences in your life. So those things definitely come to the forefront, and whether for bad or good, I think we've all like you said, like we all make decisions that we're not proud of in the moment, but the goal is to be ultimately better at it and learn from it and not repeat anything. And that's what I strive to do, and that's what I strive to do in the hunting world. Is the same thing. If I make a mistake, or I can recollect on a similar experience, it might be a different game animal. Like people compare 20-pound turkeys to 700-pound elk in the way that they vocalize, but sometimes the tactics could be applied too. So like me being an Eastern guy that loves to chase turkey, like I could apply that to archery elk hunting. Absolutely. So those repeated mistakes that you make as a hunter, which is always going to happen. I mean, even as a human being, you're always going to make mistakes. But to be able to learn from it and not repeat those mistakes, to apply that into your skill set as a hunter, is it all becomes more clear when you're separated from the distractions. And I think to be able to process that information when you are hunting out west is probably one of the biggest benefits that I've had being out there, because it's different. It's different from just pulling your truck up to the side of the road, jumping in a tree stand for 2-3 hours, probably checking emails, or trying to solve the next problem that you have going on at work throughout those 2-3 hours, and then coming back, jumping back in the car, and then going home. Like there's not a whole big disconnect that happens like it does when it's what they call that adventure hunting. Like you are literally disconnecting from the world and going into a new world. And
Yeah.
it's a cool. The best feeling is putting the pack on for the first time, walking into a new area to hunt, or having a new tag in your pocket. Like that is the greatest feeling.
Yeah, because there's so much unknown, which is, I guess, the definition of an adventure. Just the unknown ahead, and you just know like there's a bunch of growth and who knows out on the other end, and it's just you to think about and no distractions, and I love it. I mean, there's definitely some challenges you got to get over when you do them, but then there's the reward is just incredible. So you take the bad with the good, and I did want to though. Gosh, this has been a very fast 50 some minutes. Really been to join the conversation, but I did want to get into a little bit about so you've done a bunch of hunts solo. You're just, hey, you pulling the trailhead, you got Pennsylvania plates on your truck. Like you're that guy from back east who's just coming out and doing it. And I feel like there's a lot of guys that are wanting to go hunt out west. Tags are only getting harder and all these things. They feel like they need like somebody to take them. And I get that. There's a lot. It can be intimidating. But what do you recommend to tell the guy who's like, you know what, I might just try to go by myself. What can they do to prepare? I know you said you just kind of go do your own thing, sleep in your truck to go deer hunting or go up to New York. Um, Things to prepare from like the gear and technical side, but then also there's probably some advantage doing some like weekend trips. Like if you're gonna be in a tent by yourself for 8 days in the mountains, it's not a bad idea to do that for a couple days here back east. So, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I made the mistake on my first hunt. I'll never forget. There's a picture of me on like the maybe a half mile from the trailhead with my pack on, and the pack is like 4 feet off my back, just packed with all of this stuff. Every piece of gear you think you needed, every piece of article of clothing you think you needed, and I wasn't committed to it, so I didn't have like the high tech, low weight kind of gear that's out there now. but I survived. It got through it. Um, but I do remember my buddy at the time was a big hiker that I went on this first hunt with, and he's like, "Oh, we could just sleep in hammocks." He gave me that hammock like 2 months before I left. I did not sleep in that hammock at all before I left. I was like, and I'm like a side/stomach sleeper to begin with, which doesn't work in a hammock. So I think it was like day 4 or 5 until I finally actually got because my body was just so exhausted from not sleeping. So definitely what you were alluding to is test it out before you go to this macro scale. Try it at the micro scale. There's plenty of places on the east that you can go do a weekend deer hunt, and you could pack your pack, you can put your tent in there, you could take some of the luxuries, even like you could take pre-made food, or you could take you know something to cook on it, like a pot or a cast iron pan or something that you could pack in, because you don't need all the other stuff, and just go and have like a more of a micro adventure just to test these things out. What do I really need? I think the other thing has just been the compounding experience. Like I run a super intensive gear list of everything. Everything I own is weighed, documented, and tracked in a spreadsheet. Um, so when I pack, I create a copy of it every time I go on a hunt. And then if I could look back at the last hunt and be like, okay, I didn't use that, I didn't use that, I didn't use that, it's not coming with me, or this hunt, spotting scope wasn't going to help me. It's needed on this hunt now. So just knowing those things up front, I think, is super crucial. You don't want to be taking. If I could skip the learning curve, if I could help people skip the learning curve that I experienced, it would be trying to be comfortable being uncomfortable with on the gear side, just due to a execution standpoint. If you know you're probably not going to be sitting behind a spotting scope for 12 hours a day, like if that is not your intention to hunt, don't take one. Like you can get by with binoculars. Um, so just little stuff like that. Like it's not worth the effort carrying this thing around. It's not worth the weight. It's not worth the packing space that you have. So like just little things like that. Um, and you'll know that based on the type of style of hunt, like narrow it down. What are you really trying to do? Like just try and plan out what that whole experience of success looks like. So when we talk about these milestones, and the success of the animal is just one of these milestones, and you should have joy and enjoyment throughout the entire process. I think being able to do that, being able to identify what is going to make that a reality for you is important. If it is just punching a tag, I don't want to say I feel bad for you, but I think that's a different kind of approach that you have to use. But if it is like, hey, I want to push my body, I want to push my mind, I want to be able to try something new, I want to do the whole backpacking style, I want to chase a new animal. Like if that is it, and you can lay all that out as to what spells success for you, I think regardless of, did you have the right gear? Did you sleep the second night? Like, did you see any animals? Regardless of what that outcome is, it's not going to matter, because you're going to find success in other ways. But you got to be very diligent in the values that you're going to set on that.
Totally. I think all well said, and those are great tips. It's a great way to test all your gear too. I think a great way to break in the boots that you're gonna want to take, and just all those things, dude. I mean, even down to like how many times you set up your tent before you take it out there. Like I've seen a guy that, like, we got out there and he was just like struggling with his tent, and I'm like, need a hand? He's just like, oh, there's no YouTube out here, dude. Like it's like, I was
Yeah.
like, how did like I'll help you, but like this is like the stuff we talk about, like
Yeah.
just getting reps with everything, and it's just so important getting your stuff dialed.
Yeah.
At least that's what I
Absolutely.
try to do.
Yeah, I agree with you, and especially like the tent thing is a great thing, because like the first time you set that tent up is probably the only planned attempt you're gonna have the rest could be in the dark, in the rain, whatever it is.
On a slope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah. Speaking of shelters, though, scrolling through those pictures of that mule deer hunt, is that the one you like to run? And do you have any other recommendations? That Nemo one, or talk shelters for a couple minutes?
Okay.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
little gear talk.
I don't have too much experience with them. So the Nemo one from the mule deer hunt is already gone. That was a 2-person tent that I ended up getting rid of.
Okay. Was that the
The orange,
dragonfly? Or
yeah, it
okay,
was. Yeah. I
didn't like
I
it.
liked it. No, I liked it. I
Okay.
liked it. Um, I cannot beat this $4.99 Walmart special Ozark Trail 1-person tent that I have. Between weight and packability, it's a 1.5-person tent. But and it was $5. Like, if that thing gets destroyed on the side of the mountain, I'm gonna wrap it up, put it in my pack, and not give a crap about it. Like, I I don't know how I found it. I found it online at some point, like
$5.
10 years ago. Yeah, it was on clearance for like $5 online. I had it shipped to like the local store. I picked it up, and dude, I don't have much experience with shelters because I'm using a $5 Ozark Trail tent. That's just the fun. But I guess it goes to reiterate that you don't need, if you can sacrifice in certain areas, you don't need the $400, $500, 2-pound tent. Yes, 1.5-person tent is, I think, like 4 pounds 9 ounces or something. Okay, you add that up with the other sleep stuff. Like my sleep system's probably like 8 9 pounds between a pad and my sleeping bag. So yeah, could I cut that down a couple pounds? Probably, but that it's also a $5 tent that whatever happens to it.
Yeah. So wait, Tim, you mean to tell me I don't need the $1,200 Hilleberg? Like, I see all the guys on Instagram have that. I can say that shit because I have a Hilleberg.
Yeah.
I bought it used though.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, like I always want to update it. I really do, and
I'm giving you a hard time. My point is you don't. Yeah, it's more important to be. I bet you're dialed in with that thing though.
I could set that thing up with one hand behind my back, and my eyes closed, in the rain and not get wet. Like, that's just because I set it up 100 times. But I also read a lot of reviews with new tents of like, oh, it's condensation this and that, and I'm like, I don't have that, so I don't want to buy into something that's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It will break eventually. It was a $5 tent. Eventually, something's gonna happen to it, and that's fine. But yeah, for shelters, the Nemo was nice. I liked having that was a 2-person, so I liked having the extra space, because right now it gets a little tight in the Ozark when I want to bring my pack in. I tend to sleep with my pack and my weapon inside the tent, so it gets a little crammed in there. So the 2-person was nice that I could put all that stuff one place, keep my boots under the vestibule, and have a whole nice area. But I really got rid of it because I was like, I don't need it. I don't need, like, that's a comfort. That space was a comfort. It packed down, my Ozark packs down smaller than that did, and it was just a couple ounces heavier for the 2-person as opposed to the one. So I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna stick with what I like.
There you go. If it works, it works. And I actually have a blog article that I wrote. I put a few out as soon as I launched everything, and the one is called "It's Not Your Hunting Gear," and it's not me talking shit on the hunting industry and all this stuff. But in a nutshell, this is a perfect anecdote to what I wrote about. To where, okay, let me back up. There's probably a couple things that yeah, you're probably gonna have to spend a little bit of money on, like a pack. Like, if you want to go backpack hunting, I'd probably get a decent pack, and you're probably looking at $600. But a couple other things maybe. But other than that, you don't. There's a lot of things you don't need, and I see this as, if you're a man of means and that's what you want to do, go for it. And I love gear and tinkering with stuff, but if it makes a difference between you going and you not going, thinking that you need to spend, I need $1,000 worth more of Sitka gear, and then maybe next year I'll go on the elk hunt, but I know I need, these pants and that jacket. No, like, I I feel for the guy that sees a lot of the social media marketing. And again, I'm not talking shit on it because, I have a lot of it. A lot of it's great. But like, don't let that should never be your differentiator in going. That's all.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think at the end of the day, you want something that's going to perform for you. I think there's certain items that carry bigger value. Like I'm big on my diet to begin with as a whole, but I do a lot of my own dehydrated meals that I take. I don't do a lot of the packed meals. Once in a while, I'll supplement like a week long hunt. I may take one or two or something, but I'll take like 5 pack meals of it could be the same meal or 2 meals, and I just switch on and off. But I don't sacrifice on the food because that'll ruin your hunt if you can't physically go, if you don't have good food. Um, Sleep, obviously, that could impact your hunt. I felt that when I slept in a hammock. And your feet. I mean, you need boots that are going to perform for you. I'm a big Kuyu guy. I have a ton of Kuyu, but like that's because I know that if I spend the money, that's going to perform. And once I buy it, I don't have to buy it for another 10 years. So, but
Totally. Yep.
there's I don't want you to think like we talked about, the miles that we put on. Like you could hunt like that, but if you're getting into it, you can car camp it. You can take your truck, go get your license, drive out there, sleep in a trailhead, and hunt within 3 miles of your truck every day. And I guarantee you, like you'll run into game. You'll have opportunities. There's people that kill that close to trailheads every day, or not every day, but every season and every unit probably. Because there are people that are doing that. Yeah, will you deal with some crowds? You might deal with more crowds. You may have some other negative effects, but you may have some very positive effects that come out of that. But at least it's getting you out there. It's getting you to experience it. You don't have to take it to level 10. Unless you're the individual that wants to drive it to level 10, like you and I probably do on most cases.
Yeah, we say this, but then no,
Yeah.
I'll go 10 days solo. Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a
And
great tip. And then because you're gonna learn also. You're gonna be learning. Like that's probably the biggest tip I have for people going out for the first time. Just go and learn and have fun. Like, of course, give it your all and try to kill something. I'm never saying like it's okay to, half-ass it. Like, go for it. But just always be learning, come back, think, okay, what did I use? What didn't I use? What gear sucked? What do I actually need? What do I not need? Constantly learn, be a student. And that's, yeah.
define your success. Define the values in that hunt that you're going to find, and define how you're going to see success in that hunt, and then just attribute whatever you're planning towards setting that success.
Totally. I love it, man. So before we wrap up, just wanted to ask you too, what's your 2025 looking like? I mean, we're wrapping up application season here. Do we have our name in the hat in anything, or what's it looking like?
So actually, back in December, I actually pulled an Idaho deer tag for rifle season, October-ish, beginning of October, I believe. I haven't completely decided if I'm going to go through with it yet or if I'm going to put it in, but I think Colorado's due here in like a day, and I need to get on that because I've really just been completely overhauled in other things. But I don't know. I have a ton of stuff planned for April for turkey now, and my turkey season started a couple weeks ago in Florida. So I do have some stuff planned for spring, but I haven't even thought much about the fall just yet. I do have a ton of points in a lot of different places. So I am sitting on the Idaho tag. So I think it's going to be go forward with the Idaho tag, or try and cash in one of these points. It seems like all these states now, there's bills every day about raising up non-resident costs. So it's like, I don't know, do you just try and cash in points every year, like try and pull tags every single year, because it's just going to be ridiculous for a non-resident going forward? I think Utah is the latest one in the news now.
That's what I was going to bring it up, dude. I think general deer is now $800. That limited entry elk is like over 2,500. I think it was pushing 3 or something. Yeah, for the limited entry elk. I think the general elk was well over 1,500. Everything essentially doubled what it was the year before. and then it's crazy, and
It's insane.
I don't think that's a good look. I think that's not helping. There's a lot of guys that are going to be like, you know what? I'm done with Army F. I'm done with BHA. I'm done with all, like, this is ridiculous. And it's hard to
Yeah,
fight that. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know what the ultimate goal is. Is the ultimate goal that the states need the money? Is the ultimate goal to keep the non-residents out and let the residents have a better hunting experience? Because at the end of the day, in a lot of those states, it's all money driven. It really is, and it really needs to be wildlife driven. Like, are we going to lose interest? Like, is the like, obviously there's been a huge spike of non-resident hunting in the West over the last decade. There's no doubt about it. So is this a way to kind of maybe settle that down? Like, are they starting to see impacts because of that? Whether it's on the vegetation, it's on the populations, it's on the distress that the animal. Like, I don't know. I'm not a biologist, but just raising the cost to try and push people out isn't the right answer. Just due to the fact that even if it does balance itself back out, those costs will never come down. We'll never see if that passes. You'll never see tags in Utah be any cheaper than they are right
Yeah. I don't understand it. The only thing I know is looked at a few different states. I mean, elk population numbers are doing well. They're above a lot of quotas. They're increasing. Mule deer are hurting most places, mainly because of the weather and things like that, not really hunting related. And then I don't even know much about the non-resident pressure. Like, I was looking into Montana, because that draw is coming up. It's tomorrow. But by the time this drops, it'll be past. I was looking at the number of Montana applicants just for their general combo, and it's gone down. So I don't know. I think I know. It's just a money thing. In Utah, I think the people making these laws, we are so, this is like our world so much. The people making the laws aren't really involved that much with hunting and wildlife, and they're just kind of making the laws, but we think like they are, and they must know something we don't. I don't think they think as much of it as we do. So they're just like, we need to increase some state funds. We'll just, we don't want to hear the chirps from the residents here. We'll jack up the non-resident prices, because Wyoming last year, their super tag for elk just jumped to like pushing $2,000. So they think maybe that's kind of like setting a precedence.
now.
And then Utah just blew it all up. I don't know. That's my 2 cents. Yeah, it sucks, but
Yeah,
we'll see.
I agree with you. I mean, Colorado, that decision with the wolves was made by people that aren't aren't hunters and conservationists, and they're seeing the effects of it already. So Utah will probably, like, if that does go through, there'll probably be a decline in applicants, or it's just it's unfortunate. It's just what's the right answer for wildlife? Like, that's always the side I'm on. I don't care either way. Like, if it's harder for me to get a tag, if there's a reason behind it, if there's a couple crappy winters that there's a lot of winter kill and the animals are not like you said, it on good population and good management strategies have to be changed. Like, I'm all for that. I'm all about the wildlife. Whatever makes the most sense so that that species can be managed properly and have the abundance that it has right now to go generations beyond us. Like, that's the side I'm going to land on all the time. But if it's
100%.
just the state needs more money because we have foolish spending everywhere else, and we'll just charge the hunters because we don't like hunters, then you have the wrong people sitting at the table.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Amen. All right, man. Yeah, before we go, where can people find you on all your socials to keep up with maybe things you got going on?
Yeah, the only social I have is Instagram, really, and it's at Eastern Backcountry. I'm not very active on it, but I every once in a while get on there. So yeah,
Because it's usually a grip and grin. Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yep.
But
That'll work.
yeah, that's it. Or they could always reach out to you and reach out to me personally too. It's always best to.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. This was a great chat, and I look forward to keeping in touch as well.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it. All right, everybody. That's it. Have a good one. See ya.
Hey, if you liked that episode, please share it with a friend, share it on your story, and give the podcast a rating and a review on wherever you listen. For more of this type of content, you can head over to the YouTube channel and follow along on all the social platforms. Really appreciate it. See you on the mountain.